Hello, this is a short information video about our single vibe drums, as well as some information about these types of drums in general and some things you should consider before purchasing one of these. This is our selection of single vibe drums. This is our stainless electro-polished drum. This is our Illusion Red. This is our Stardust, our Tropical, and our unpainted but zinc plated version. So this is our unpainted steel drum. It's been zinc plated, and I wanted to show you this because you can see the notes much easier in it than you can on the painted drums. And also to show you what the drum looks like before we put the paint on it. And of course you can play it with your fingers, or you can play it with mallets. It's a slightly different sound with the mallets. It's a little softer, I think, with the mallets. The notes resonate a good long time. It can be used for playing music, meditation, trance, but also there's a therapeutic side of this in that we use it for sound therapy for some people, for energy healing, and also for on the body vibrational massages, which is fabulous. Now when we talk about these drums, we need to talk about the steel that it's made out of, and this is made out of really high quality US produced steel that meets AISI standards, and AISI is American Iron and Steel Institute. So it's a very good quality steel, and it's new. It's not made from an old propane tank that has failed hydrostat tests. So the steel is new and it's good. We use 13 gauge steel on the playing surface of the drum, and the reason is one, is it makes the drum very durable, and two, the notes resonate for a good long time. 8 to 10 seconds, and it just keeps going. So this is one of the advantages of having a thicker steel. There are other drums, most other drums are made with a 14 gauge. And you'll see some drums that have a big hole in the bottom where it's kind of curved in. And this is called, you'll see this on handpans a lot, and this is called a goo hole. And anytime you see this type of hole, in order to form this, they have to use very thin steel. So almost all handpans or types of drums with a goo hole in it, they use 18 gauge steel. Now 18 gauge steel is very thin. It's just 0.04 inches or 1 millimeter thick, where our 13 gauge steel is 0.09 or 2.25 millimeters thick, which means it's like twice as thick. So with the thin drums, they sound really nice, but you have to be very careful with them, because if you drop them or sit on them or step on them or something happens to it, they dent very easily. And also these tabs where they do the cuts, if you hit them too hard, it stresses them and they will bend. So you have to be a little bit careful with the thin steel. Even though it sounds good, it is very delicate. This is our stainless steel drum, and it's been electro-polished. And also on the playing surface, we use a 13 gauge steel. And we use a really good high quality stainless steel. We use a medical grade stainless steel, and it's also produced in the US. So it meets also the AISI standards for specifications. So it's a very high quality, very good steel, and which makes a good solid drum. So you can play it for years and years. So it won't only sound good today or when you buy it, but also in the future, a year from now, 2 years from now, the drum will continue to sound good because it's very sturdy and very durable and beautiful. So don't just buy a drum because it's beautiful or it looks good. You want to buy a drum that sounds good, and not only sounds good when you buy it and you receive it, but also next year when you're playing it, because the thinner drums, if you're not careful, they go out of tune very, very easily because the metal is so thin. So watch for these things when you're looking at these types of drums. Okay, so now let's talk about the notes. And you see with our drums, with our vibe drums, we use a hexagonal shape on our notes. And one of the reasons why we do this is that it focuses your attention on the sweet spot of each note, because it immediately draws your eyes right to the middle of the hexagon, so you know right where the sweet spot is. The other thing you need to consider when looking at these types of drums is the distance between the notes. Now, I could have taken this drum and put notes all through here and just filled it up with notes. But the thing is if the notes are too close together, if you hit one note, it will activate the note next to it. And this will cause a certain amount of harmonic distortion. And it may not sound so good or so pure. So this is one of the things we've done is we've put the large notes as far apart from each other as we can, so that when I hit a really low one, it doesn't activate all the other notes around it. The other thing is that if the notes are too spaced together, or there are more and more notes in there, the more cutting you do in the drum, the weaker you make the drum as a whole. So this is why we limit our drum to 9 notes. 1, to keep it strong and durable, and 2, so there is not any harmonic distortion between the notes. Okay, so if I set it down and notice with this type of drum, with these bigger drums, you have to move your arms all over the place. You've seen these guys playing it on YouTube. They sound wonderful and they're beautiful, but there's a lot of arm movement with it. But with these drums, with our vibe drums, there's very little arm movement. It's mostly just hand and wrist movement. And that's like 4 notes, just like that, with just that little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And play very fast if you want to. So that's kind of a nice thing about the note spacing. So the drum comes, when we make it, we kind of offer it in basically 7 different pentatonic scales, but we also do akibono scales and pygmy scales, and it seems like anytime you throw like 8 or 9 notes together, you're allowed to name it whatever name you want. So I go with the traditional names of the pentatonic scales in C major, C major and D minor and E minor and E major. I've seen other people, they've renamed the scale. It's an E minor, but they call it, I don't know, the Roman scale or something. But we also do what's called an akibono scale, which has a little bit of a oriental flavor to it, and a pygmy scale as well. We tune the drum normally to 440 megahertz. However, some people like, for healing and things like this, they like 432 hertz, and we can do this as well. The only problem with 432 hertz is that if you're playing it with other musical instruments, all other musical instruments are tuned to 440, so all of your notes are going to sound a little bit flat. But for energy and for massage and for healing, 432 is the way to go. But 440 also works for healing as well, and then you've got the dual use of being able to play it with people who play Native American flutes, bamboo flutes, guitar, harps. It goes great with harps and these types of things. So we offered it different scales. I don't do anything higher than an F scale. I've done them before, but I find that with these types of drums, to try to get a good note out of the high note is really hard. And I've also found that I don't like to go any lower than a D major, and I have done some down in the C scales before, but the low notes are so low and so deep that when you hit it, it vibrates and just it activates the whole drum. So I found that the best range for these types of drums is between F and F minor and D major, and I try to keep it that way. Although you can find other scales out there if you want. So the drum is about 11.5 inches in diameter, about 5 inches thick, weighs about 5.5 pounds, roughly 2.3 kilos or 2.5 kilos, right in there. And then also in the single drum, the bottom of the drum there's no hole in it. And the reason for this is it forms a perfect parabolic dish that reflects all the sound back out the front of the drum. In addition, because of the smooth bottom, it concentrates the vibration right here in the middle of the drum. So if you're doing massage therapy and laying it on somebody's body and playing it, the vibrational energy is focused right into the middle and right into their body. So it's great for doing massages for people with sore muscles or all types of problems. And this is one of the reasons why we keep on the single drum the bottom nice and smooth, and so it works very well. So now let's talk a little bit about the coating that we put on these drums. This is an Illusion red drum. Before we paint it, our drum looks like this. And we take the steel, and after it's all formed, then we completely submerge the entire drum into a zinc plating bath. So there is zinc plating on the outside of the drum as well as completely on the inside. So the drum is completely protected against the elements with the zinc plating. Then, after it's zinc plated, we paint it. And I chose to use a powder coat paint, and unlike other people who are doing some powder coating where they just put on one layer of powder coat and it's done, which is actually kind of soft. You can take your fingernail and scratch it like you can on some bicycles and things. We use a very exotic type of powder coat. It is like 2 coats. It's kind of like an epoxy paint in a way, in that we add 1 coat, then we treat it a little bit, and then we put on a second layer, and these 2 layers react with each other chemically and formed a good strong bond, so that when it is done and baked, you have 2 coats of powder coat, and they've formed a chemical reaction towards a very hard, and it makes it much more scratch resistant. It's difficult to scratch this. It's not impossible, but it is more difficult to scratch this than most other powder coats on the market. I chose to use powder coat paint was because when I wanted to make these drums, I want to make them with as very little impact to the environment as possible. And with the powder coat, we've been able to do that. I've seen some drums that have etched patterns in them, etched or engraved. And etching is something we kind of want to stay away from, because when you're etching regular steel, you need to use hydrochloric acid to do this, which is a very hazardous chemical. Or if you're etching stainless steel, you have to do nitric acid, which is even more hazardous. And then of course, after you're done etching it, now you've got acid that's got metal in it that you have to deal with. Now if you're living in a country or manufacturing these drums in a country that doesn't have much environmental regulations, then you can kind of do what you want. Like China, we see the pollution over there. But seeing how we're manufacturing in Arizona and we need to comply with all the EPA and environmental regulations, we thought it was just best to stay away from using hazardous chemicals and generating even more hazardous waste, as if we don't have enough already on this earth. The other reason why we use powder coat over spray paint on an environmental issue is spray paint has something called VOCs, volatile organic compounds which contribute to greenhouse gases, where powder coat does not have any of these at all. So this is the reason why we're also staying away from spray paints like automotive paints and things like this. So the powder coat makes a really good, hard, durable finish, and there's 2 layers on it, so it's even extra protected. Okay, just to sum up, our drums are made with high quality steel or medical grade stainless steel that meets AISI standards. The steel is 13 gauge to increase the durability of the drum and longer note resonance. The notes have a hexagonal shape to focus your attention on the sweet spot of the note. The notes are spaced far enough apart to where there is not harmonic distortion between the notes, yet they are spaced close enough that you can hit 2 notes quite easily with one hand with very little arm movement. The drum is double powder coated, so it has a good strong finish, and it's pretty much scratch resistant. Solid bottom, which forms a parabolic dish for focusing the energy here and also for projecting the sound out the front of the drum. It's small, relatively lightweight, and quite thin. And it looks a bit like a UFO coming in, so you can take some pictures and send it to NASA or the NSA, tell them you spotted a UFO. It's kind of fun. You can do all kinds of things with it. It comes with a liner bag. This is a green one. And the kind of nice thing is you can kind of put it in the liner bag. Comes with mallets also. And I don't know, just for fun. Let me turn it this way. Alright. And you can even play it in the liner bag. Sound, or do whatever you want that's kind of creative. You can do all kinds of things with this drum to create your own unique experience. Put it in the liner bag, fold it up. Here I have like a day pack. Just drop it in the day pack. Toss in the mallets, can't forget those, and ready to go. So very, very portable, very easy to carry around, and lightweight also, so it doesn't feel like you're carrying this big massive thing all the time, which makes it really, really nice. Okay, thank you from Vibe Drums.